So the Houston Texans have had a bunch of problems within the past couple of weeks, from Deshaun Watson requesting a trade, from J.J. Watt really getting out of there. I mean, he got released by the Houston Texans, which was a very big shocker to me. You can go check out that video, my reaction to it. But basically in this video, I'm going to give you some very good information and explain what may or may not be going on with the Texans. But first, before we get right into the video, make sure to like and subscribe. All that information is going to be right here. And yeah, I have a lot of good information for you, so thank you for watching in advance. So without further ado, let's get right into the video. Now, of course, we know, I believe former Texans owner Bob McNair, he died in 2018. And ever since then, it seems like the Texans have not been the same. They had that one very good 10-6 year, I think, where they got to the second round of the playoffs, held a 20-point lead against the Chiefs until, we all know what Patrick Mahomes did that year. And yeah, so basically, Cal McNair is now the owner, or really the McNair family. They're now the owner of the Houston Texans, but there have been some questionable comments from Cal McNair. Now, Cal McNair was quoted giving his criticism on black football players taking a knee during the national anthem, and he was quoted saying, "I can't have inmates running the prison." And while I'm not going to claim that as racist, I'm not going to say that it is exactly true. I'm not going to say those were exact words, but those are alleged comments, and those are very questionable comments coming from a guy who's supposed to be a leader and an owner of your team. Also, Deshaun Watson, he's been seemingly completely ignored during the process. Deshaun Watson wanted head coach Eric Bieniemy, aka Kansas City's offensive coordinator. Yeah, the offensive coordinator, the best offense in the league. That's who Deshaun Watson wanted, and it really, the Texans completely ignored him. They hired basically somebody that nobody really knew. I'm pretty sure you don't know the Texans head coach. Me, I know him a little bit, but he doesn't have a lot of experience. A guy with lesser experience. The big story is Houston, they ignored Deshaun Watson. Deshaun Watson made it clear, quote unquote, he made it clear that he wanted Eric Bieniemy to be the next head coach of the Houston Texans because, he wanted to see what he could do, because Eric Bieniemy, he's one of the best offensive coordinators in the league, and you look at him and you're like, how does this guy not have a job yet? Houston Texans, they had a great opportunity to sign him and quite possibly get their franchise quarterback to stay there and say, okay, these guys are listening to me. I have a little say in this. They had a chance to prove to Deshaun Watson that they were willing to listen to him, and they did not take that chance. Now, this is the same franchise that hired and fired Bill O'Brien, and before of course the DeAndre Hopkins trade and all that stuff, Bill O'Brien said some insensitive comments to DeAndre Hopkins, and he basically used quote-unquote coded language to describe black people, and also he said some crazy things to DeAndre Hopkins. He compared DeAndre Hopkins to Aaron Hernandez, and while that may not ring a bell at first, you remember Aaron Hernandez, the tight end for the Patriots, who ended up going to jail and committing suicide, unfortunately. God rest his soul. But that's pretty disrespectful. Like, come on, you can't compare DeAndre Hopkins to somebody he's not in this world anymore. Like, that's a pretty sensitive topic right there. Also, some more questionable comments. And then he also referred to DeAndre Hopkins' children as baby mamas. He also got into DeAndre Hopkins' personal life. And while you're in football, while that's your head coach, I'm guessing you want to keep it pretty professional when you're talking to your best player and a top 5 wide receiver in the NFL. Like, that's pretty insensitive. That, I'm not going to say that's racism. I'm not going to say that's completely towards black people, but I'm going to say that that's a very insensitive comment and has no place or setting in a football locker room. But to be fair, Bill O'Brien, he didn't seem to be liked by anybody else in the locker room, and yet Texas still kept him around. And it's really insane because people like J.J. Watt was quoted saying that Bill O'Brien would frequently get into quote-unquote verbal blow-ups during practices and games. And of course, we know J.J. Watt was released. He was released by the Texans, so maybe that has some correlation. I know that Bill O'Brien was out of the building, but maybe J.J. Watt has something going on with the executives further up. Maybe he has something going on with Cal McNair, who's been quoted saying multiple very insensitive comments, or that could be at least perceived to be insensitive comments about his African-American counterparts. And that's that's really what I want to dig into. I know that's a very sensitive topic, but when you're an owner in the NFL, the players don't really get a lot of a huge say. Like we saw, of course, in case you didn't see it, what's his name? Brett Favre told Deshaun Watson basically to shut up and play. He said Deshaun Watson should stop complaining and just play. And while some people can understand that, that's basically shut up and dribble except for football. Like, players should have a say on whether they want to be somewhere or not. Deshaun Watson's having that say and everyone's telling him to be quiet. And basically, I feel like that's very insensitive because at the end of the day, it's the players. Like, the players make the league. The players are the league. And without the players, there is no league. So the players should have a say. I did not agree with what Brett Favre had to say at all. But getting back into it, yes, a lot of people have problems with head coach Bill O'Brien. Of course, he was fired. But who knows? Bill O'Brien was the general manager of that team. So who knows? Maybe J.J. Watt and Deshaun Watson, maybe even DeAndre Hopkins too, they all have problems maybe with the owner. Maybe it's something higher up. We never know right here, but basically J.J. Watt stated that Bill O'Brien would frequently get into verbal blow-ups during practice. Now, of course, reported by Adam Schefter himself, one of my favorite guys. You guys go check him out, Reported by Adam Schefter, Eric Bieniemy had interviewed a lot of jobs, and he was said to be pretty good in some of those interviews. I mean, he said that the Texans, they were the last people with an open coaching spot because Atlanta had hired them, the Jaguars had hired their coach, the Jets had hired their coach, the Chargers had also hired their coach. The Houston Texans, this seems to be money right here. Like, this is the offensive coordinator of the best offense in the NFL for the past 2 years. Texans, this seems to be quick money. This should be a quick grab. Hey, we have our head coach, but no. Texans did not sign him, and Eric Bieniemy is still going to be probably the offensive coordinator for the same team next season. Houston Texans, you guys missed out because once again, like I pointed out before in the video, Deshaun Watson, he wanted Eric Bieniemy to be his head coach, and for the Texans to have this guy sitting right in their hands, right in their lap, waiting for with no other team giving any contest, for them to ignore them, it's just straight up. It shows you how much they don't care about how Deshaun Watson has their franchise quarterback at that. Deshaun Watson really, really wanted this guy here. He wanted him to really, get there and you know how that could have gone. Like, come on, it's Deshaun Watson. You saw what he's doing with Patrick Mahomes. Maybe Deshaun Watson, he could do sort of the same thing. Deshaun Watson could not wait for Eric Bieniemy to get there, and basically, long story short, the Texans ignored him. They ignored every single thing that Deshaun Watson said. They ignored every single thing that Deshaun Watson wanted and said he wanted in his locker room. And then, quoted again, in a few weeks' time, the Houston Texans have missed out on the hottest general managers and coaching prospects on the market, as well as having their star quarterbacks force a trade. All because they have, quote-unquote, been related to refusing to hire African-American people. They've refused to hire Eric Bieniemy. They refused to hire two very, very experienced and, of course, one of the best general managers in the league, two of the best general managers in the league at the time who would have made great general managers. Eventually, they both went to their separate teams. Basically, the Houston Texans, they have been very relevant when it comes to not wanting to hire African-American counterparts. And of course, this ends with the quote, racism is truly bad for business. And that is 1000% true. I think that the Texans could have definitely gone about this way better, but it all starts at the top. The owner, he's made some very insensitive comments. Of course, we saw Bill O'Brien earlier in the video. I talked how he made very insensitive comments. And of course, another quote, Deshaun Watson feels very ignored. He feels very degraded by the franchise, as if he's not important. And of course, if this was any other random NFL player, I'd be like, okay, this guy is just, he's a regular player. But this is your franchise quarterback. This is a top 5 quarterback in the league we're talking about. And for him to be getting ignored is just absolutely ridiculous. That shows you what's really, really going on in Houston. So that's just a little outlook. For my little conclusion and rebuttal, I'm basically going to say, Houston, you guys have to get it together. You guys have to find a way for your quarterback, because Deshaun Watson reportedly wants nothing to do with the coaching staff and wants nothing to do with the general manager they have in there now, much less the owner who's made insensitive comments to African-American people before. Of course, very touchy episode. I like to get into this stuff. I will give you guys a lot more news if more news comes out, but that's a lot of behind the scenes stuff going on in Houston. So watch out for the Houston Texans. I know some Atlanta fans, some Houston fans are out there. Maybe Deshaun Watson comes to Atlanta. You never know. However, Houston fans, you guys have a lot to look forward to. Like, the Houston Texans are in a bad place right now. As I quoted back in the JJ Watt video, they are in a mess. So, of course, thank you for watching the video. Like and subscribe. Of course, I'm on Spotify. I'm on iHeartRadio, so go check those out. Those links will be in the description. Without further ado, I'm going to end this video. Make sure you guys stay loved and stay blessed. Thank you for watching.